14th of March 1945. The cold concrete floor of the captured German depot makes every footstep echo as American ordnance officers move carefully through the dim, dust-filled space. The early morning chill seeps through their uniforms. A single hanging bulb swings faintly overhead, its light flickering across long rows of wooden crates marked with the German eagle. The air carries the smell of old oil, wet timber, and the bitter after-scent of burnt gunpowder left from the battles fought just days earlier. Somewhere, deeper inside dripping water taps, rhythmically against a metal pipe. It's the only sound until a crowbar cracks open one of the crates. The lid falls back, releasing a small puff of dust, and revealing a weapon few Americans have seen up close. An officer reaches inside and lifts it out. The weight surprises him. Not too heavy, not too light. Solid, purpose-built. He turns the weapon slowly in the half-light. The curved magazine, the stamped steel receiver, the pistol grip. He squeezes it and feels something unsettling. It doesn't feel like a rifle from 1945. It feels modern. The weapon is stamped StG 44, StG 44, the world's first mass-produced assault rifle. The officers exchange glances. One of them exclaims quietly, almost under his breath, "What were they building over here?" For a moment, the war outside fades. What rests in their hands is not just a captured enemy weapon. It feels like a blueprint for a new kind of soldier, a new kind of battlefield. But to understand why these American engineers were stunned, and why this rifle seemed far ahead of its time, we have to go back years. Before this depot was captured, before the StG 44 had its name, before anyone fully understood the concept it embodied. The Second World War reshaped every idea about infantry combat. Before the conflict, European armies still relied on long, heavy bolt-action rifles designed for accuracy at extreme ranges, weapons that demanded calm, deliberate shooting, the kind usually associated with trench warfare or open fields. But by 1941 and 1942, the war did not look like that anymore. On the Eastern Front, German troops faced something entirely different. Fierce, close-quarters fighting inside forests, villages, factories, and shattered cities. Soviet infantry attacked with large numbers of submachine guns, weapons that unleashed high rates of fire at short distances. The kind of distances where life or death was decided in seconds, not minutes. The Germans realized their standard bolt-action rifles weren't ideal for this new reality. A rifle soldier facing a wave of submachine gun-armed opponents had to work a bolt after every shot. Even skilled riflemen found themselves outgunned by volume of fire. Submachine guns fixed the rate of fire issue, but they used pistol ammunition. That meant weak range and limited penetration beyond short distances. Somewhere between these two extremes, high-power rifles and short-range submachine guns. There seemed to be a missing piece. A weapon that could deliver rapid fire but still reach out to a few hundred meters with lethal force. That missing piece became the foundation of the StG 44. Even before the war, German designers experimented with a new idea, an intermediate power cartridge. Something more powerful than a pistol round, but easier to control than a full rifle round. This concept eventually became the 7.92 hours 33 mm Kurz, a shorter, lighter version of the standard German rifle cartridge. It was revolutionary. Lighter ammunition meant a soldier could carry more rounds. Lower recoil meant they could fire rapidly without losing control. And at the realistic combat ranges of World War II, most firefights happening between 100 and 400 meters, the intermediate cartridge still packed plenty of power. German engineers then needed a weapon to match the new ammunition. In 1942, prototypes appeared. Compact carbines capable of semi-automatic and fully automatic fire. Early versions had rough finishes but introduced core elements that would define the StG 44's a gas-operated system, a detachable magazine, a pistol grip for better handling, and a shorter overall length that favored mobility. But there was resistance inside the German command structure. Some bureaucrats and older officers believed that adopting a new ammunition type and a new rifle during wartime was too disruptive. Others still clung to the idea that infantry should prioritize long-range accuracy. To push the program forward, designers temporarily labeled the weapon as a machine pistol. To avoid political resistance, they called it MP-43, a name that disguised its true intention. Despite early skepticism, field trials on the Eastern Front in 1943 changed minds quickly. German soldiers reported that the new weapon gave them a tremendous advantage. They could lay down suppressive fire, clear trenches faster, and maintain accurate fire at mid-range. The rifle wasn't perfect. Its stamped steel construction looked crude compared to the beautifully machined rifles of earlier decades. But beauty meant nothing when a weapon had to be produced quickly in wartime factories under non-stop Allied bombing. Stamped steel meant faster production, fewer skilled machinists, and lower costs, all crucial for a nation under pressure. By 1944, the design improved, and the High Command finally acknowledged what they had created. The name changed again, this time with full approval: Sturmgewehr 44. The Assault Rifle 44. It was more than a weapon. It was a concept, a gun built specifically for the way modern infantry actually fought. Now, back inside that dimly lit depot, American engineers run their fingers along the stamped steel. They notice the quick change field service parts, the way the sights are arranged for mid-range effectiveness, the design of the recoil system, the hand-filling pistol grip, the balanced weight. One of the engineers shoulders the rifle. Another inserts the magazine. A third adjusts the sights and studies the gas system. This is different, someone whispers. They compare it to the American M1 Garand. Powerful but heavy, firing full power rifle ammunition. They think of submachine guns like the Thompson or the M3 Grace gun. Excellent for close combat but lacking distance. Even the new American carbine, the M1 carbine, fires a much weaker round. But this StG 44 bridges everything. It is a weapon specifically engineered for the modern battlefield, not inherited from the last one. And as American officers lift the rifle to the light, examining the steel welds and stamped contours, one question grows louder in their minds. How far ahead was Germany thinking? What did this weapon mean for future wars? Meanwhile, outside the depot, distant artillery rumbles across the horizon as the war enters its final, violent months. Allied troops push deeper into Germany. Resistance is collapsing. Supplies are running out. Factories are in ruins. But even under such pressure, the mere existence of this weapon proves something extraordinary. Germany's engineers, working under extreme wartime constraints, still managed to invent a rifle decades ahead of its time. And as American analysts begin documenting the weapon for further study, the implications become clearer with every measurement, every disassembly, every test. The war may be ending, but the lessons from this rifle are only beginning, because hidden inside this stamped steel frame is a vision that would influence every major military power after the war, including the United States. For the American engineers holding the StG 44 in that silent depot, one realization becomes impossible to ignore. They weren't just looking at a German weapon. They were looking at the first true weapon of the modern infantry age, and what they would discover next would surprise even the most experienced among them. Eru-3C42, 14 of March 1945. Inside the depot, the StG 44 rests on a worn wooden table, its steel reflecting the flickering bulb above. American engineers kneel around it, notebooks open, hands covered in thin gloves. Every detail of the rifle draws a small gasp or murmur. The curved magazine alone, holding 30 rounds, seems almost alien compared to the standard 8-round clips of the Garand. One officer lifts the rifle. carefully pressing the bolt. It moves smoothly, almost silently. Another tilts it to the side, inspecting the gas piston, the receiver, the spring mechanisms. How did they make this so reliable? One asks. The room smells faintly of oil and sweat as the team begins a methodical disassembly. Each part is catalogued, measured, photographed. Every component, from the stamped receiver to the barrel's rifling, is a lesson in industrial efficiency and battlefield pragmatism. They notice the simplicity of the design. The CG-44 was not over-engineered. There were no unnecessary machined surfaces, no ornamental features. Every curve, every stamped panel, every spring and pin served a purpose. The rifle was built to be robust, to withstand mud, rain, and extreme cold, the very conditions that had decimated other German weapons on the Eastern Front. The gas system, in particular, catches their attention. It's short, stroke and balanced perfectly to reduce recoil, yet still deliver full automatic fire with remarkable control. Even engineers who have studied automatic weapons for decades are impressed. The Americans start to whisper among themselves. This isn't just good, it's modern. Meanwhile, in a corner, a soldier carefully inserts a loaded magazine. He fires a few rounds into a sandbag stack outside, through a temporary firing port in the depot wall. The report is softer than expected, recoil is manageable. The rifle's muzzle rise is minimal. The team exchanges astonished looks. Soldiers could, in theory, carry more ammunition and fire with higher accuracy than the older rifles or submachine guns permitted. One engineer flips the rifle over. He examines the sighting system, adjustable, simple, effective. It's not fancy optics, but it's calibrated for 100-400 meters. The range where most infantry engagements occur. He turns to the others and says, almost rhetorically, they understood real combat ranges better than we do right now. Questions fill the room. How had the Germans designed this so quickly during a war? How had they combined the accuracy of a rifle with the controllable fire of a submachine gun? How had they produced so many rifles under relentless bombing and supply shortages? The team's curiosity grows. They compare it to the American M1 Garand. The Garand has power, range, and reliability. Yes, but in close quarters, its weight and semi-automatic fire slow the soldier down. They look at the Thompson submachine gun. Excellent at short range, but it lacks penetration and accuracy beyond 50 meters. They examine the M1 carbine, light, easy to carry, but underpowered at longer distances. The StG-44 seems to hit the sweet spot, and the implications are staggering. Here is a weapon designed not for parades, not for tradition, but for the chaos of modern combat. Every feature reflects battlefield experience. Every mechanism reflects careful engineering decisions. The engineers begin sketching diagrams, taking careful notes. They measure the recoil, the muzzle velocity, the cyclic rate of fire. They calculate the effective range. The numbers are impressive: 500 meters maximum range, 300 meters practical combat range, rate of fire around 500-600 rounds per minute. All in a package light enough for a single soldier to carry comfortably with full ammunition. They dismantle the bolt assembly next. Each piece is stamped, not milled. The Americans notice how quickly parts can be replaced in the field. A worn bolt or spring could be swapped out without specialized tools. This is a rifle designed not just for performance, but for maintainability, a concept that will influence post-war infantry design for decades. The magazine design surprises them further. Curved for reliable feeding, holding 30 rounds, yet simple enough to mass produce. They compare it to the rigid 8-round Garand clip, which is slower to reload under fire. They test the spring tension, the feed angle, the insertion click. Every detail is deliberate. Some engineers walk to a nearby table piled with captured German manuals. They leaf through diagrams, assembly instructions, maintenance guides. Even the illustrations emphasize simplicity. Soldiers in the field could understand how to repair their rifles quickly. A critical advantage during intense combat. And then comes the real shock, the concept itself. The StG-44 is the first mass-produced assault rifle. Not a machine gun, not a carbine, not a traditional rifle. The engineers understand instinctively that this is a weapon category that will define future conflicts. One of them asks aloud, almost whispering, "Did they know what this really means?" The answer begins to sink in. A single soldier, with manageable recoil, sufficient stopping power, and a 30-round magazine, can dominate both close quarters and medium-range engagements. This rifle effectively multiplies the combat effectiveness of the infantryman. Outside the depot, faint sounds of artillery remind them that the war is still raging, but here, in this quiet corner, a revolution in small arms is being catalogued piece by piece. The engineers continue their careful examination. They fire it, test its rate of fire, inspect wear patterns from real combat use, and try to imagine the tactics employed by German soldiers with these weapons. One notes that the Germans weren't just innovating hardware, they were innovating combat philosophy. The rifle forces a rethink of squad tactics, formation spacing, suppression fire, and urban combat strategies. Infantry units armed with this weapon could move faster, fire more accurately at medium range, and sustain fire longer than before. Another engineer disassembles the trigger mechanism, marveling at the precision. The full auto selector isn't over-complicated. The semi-auto position works as expected. The rifle's handling is intuitive. A soldier doesn't need extensive retraining. It is a weapon designed around human ergonomics, battlefield realities, and manufacturing efficiency simultaneously. Conversations become quiet, almost reverent. The StG-44 isn't just a weapon. It's an insight into wartime innovation, into what Germany could achieve even as the Reich was crumbling. It's a lesson in forward-thinking design under extreme conditions. Hours pass. Notes fill notebooks. Parts are labeled, measurements are repeated, sketches refined. Each engineer begins to imagine applications for American designs. Could something like this replace the Garand, the Thompson, even the M1 carbine? Could a single infantryman become so much more effective with the right balance of firepower, weight, and reliability? And then, as they reassemble the rifle for one final test, someone asks, quietly, if this is what they could do under wartime pressure, what does that say about the future of weapons development? The answer hangs in the air. The StG-44 is more than steel and wood. It's a vision of warfare that hadn't fully arrived yet. A weapon that will inspire generations of rifles, from the Soviet AK-47 to modern assault rifles in armies around the world. Outside, the sun rises over the ruins of Germany. Inside the depot, American engineers continue their careful work. Every part measured, every function understood. Every discovery a small revelation. Every detail a story of innovation born from desperation, ingenuity, and an unyielding understanding of the human soldier. The StG-44 sits in the center of the table, quiet, unassuming, deadly. For those holding it, for those studying it, it is already more than a weapon. It is history, it is the future. It is a testament to how war can accelerate innovation in ways no one could have imagined. And still, questions remain. Could this rifle have changed the course of the war if produced earlier? Could the Allies have countered it differently? How would soldiers react to a battlefield dominated by such weapons? The engineers don't answer these questions immediately. They continue to observe, test, and record. They know that understanding this rifle fully will take time. They know that this small weapon has implications far beyond this depot, far beyond the war itself. By the time the day ends, the StG-44 has been fired, measured, dissected, and catalogued. The American team leaves, with notebooks brimming with data, minds buzzing with ideas. The rifle itself is returned to storage, silent once more, but its presence lingers. A ghost of future conflicts, a harbinger of what modern infantry would become. And as they walk through the empty, ruined streets outside, they carry a quiet realization the world of warfare is changing, and in that small, curved magazine, in that stamped steel frame, the next generation of combat has already begun. 0415, 14th of March 1945, the depot is quieter now, the light bulb swings gently, casting long shadows over crates and scattered notes. Outside, the distant thrum of artillery reminds the American engineers that the war is still far from over. Inside, the StG 44 rests on the table, its curved magazine catching the light like a small promise of what is to come. The team assembles around it for one final session. They have fired it, disassembled it, measured it, sketched it, and tested its mechanisms countless times. But there is one task left: understanding what this rifle truly represents, the full measure of its innovation, and how it might shape the future of combat. The discussion begins quietly, almost reverently. One engineer speaks first. Look at how compact it is, and yet it's balanced. Every soldier could carry more ammunition and still maneuver freely. Another adds, and the fire rate. Controlled, precise. Semi-automatic for careful shots. Fully automatic when needed. This is versatility we've never seen in one weapon before. They start comparing it again to existing American rifles. The Garand powerful, long range, but heavy and slow to reload under fire. The Thompson good for close quarters, but lacking range and accuracy. The M1 carbine light, easy to carry, but underpowered. None of these weapons combine range, firepower, and portability like the StG 44. And then it hits them: this isn't just a superior rifle for Germany. This is a blueprint for the future of infantry combat. One engineer, still handling the rifle, tilts it in the light. He traces the contours of the stamped receiver with his fingers, feeling the simplicity of the design. They didn't overcomplicate it, he says. Every piece has a purpose. This rifle is elegant because it is practical. Everything else we've built tries to do more, but this does exactly what it needs to do. No more, no less. Outside, the sun rises higher over the ruined German town. Dust swirls through broken windows as the team begins the final series of tests. They measure the recoil again, fire at sandbags at 100, 200, 300 meters. Each shot confirms what they already suspected: a single soldier, armed with this rifle, can dominate in both close quarters and medium-range combat. They note the durability. The rifle has been used in battle, yet the moving parts function smoothly. No complicated machining to fail in the mud and snow. The stamped steel holds together. The magazine feeds reliably. The gas system cycles without hesitation. Every feature has been stress-tested in combat before reaching them, and then comes the full realization: the StG 44 is more than just a rifle. It is a philosophy, a statement about how infantry warfare must evolve. It embodies an understanding of real combat conditions. What ranges matter, what soldiers can carry, how a weapon should behave under pressure. And for engineers who have spent years building weapons based on tradition, this insight is shocking. Someone finally asks the question aloud: if they could make this under war conditions, why didn't we think of it first? The silence that follows is heavy. Everyone knows the answer: war has a way of forcing innovation, and necessity can push designers into thinking far ahead of peacetime conventions. Germany, desperate yet ingenious, had created something revolutionary. As the team documents the final measurements and photographs the rifle from every angle, a sense of awe settles over the room. They begin to realize that the impact of this rifle will not end with the war. Even as the Allies advance and Germany collapses, the principles embedded in the StG 44, intermediate cartridges, selective fire, compact design, mass production efficiency, will ripple across the world. Back at Aberdeen Proving Ground, weeks later, these notes and specimens will influence the development of the first post-war American assault rifles. Engineers and designers study the StG 44, marveling at its practicality, and begin imagining new weapons. The concept that a single, versatile infantry rifle could replace multiple specialized weapons becomes the cornerstone of modern small arms development. But in this moment, in the quiet depot, the focus is entirely on the rifle itself. The engineers hold it carefully, almost tenderly. They feel the balance, the weight, the mechanical harmony. It is lethal, yes, but also brilliant. A machine shaped by necessity and battlefield experience, tested in the crucible of total war. One officer finally leans back and exhales. It's not just a German rifle, he says. It's the future. The room falls silent again. Outside, the distant sounds of artillery fade slightly as morning spreads over the scarred landscape. The CG-44 sits on the table, unassuming in appearance yet monumental in meaning. It represents a turning point in how infantry would fight, a glimpse of the kind of weapons soldiers would carry for decades to come. As the engineers pack their notes and tools, a reflective mood settles over them. They have seen history up close. They have handled innovation born in desperation, forged under the pressures of war. They understand that even as the Reich crumbles, the ideas within this rifle will endure. And in that silence, one thought resonates: warfare, innovation, and human ingenuity are inseparable. One small weapon, designed to fit the human hand and the chaotic reality of battle, has the power to shape the world far beyond the battlefield where it was first wielded. Months later, as the Allies occupy Germany and catalogue more captured weapons, the StG 44 will continue to influence design decisions, inspire engineers, and redefine small arms globally. Its lessons, balance of power, portability, control, and simplicity, will echo through decades of military thought, shaping rifles from the AK-47 to modern assault rifles used today. But in the depot that morning, the CG-44 remains still on the table, its purpose fulfilled not by who wields it, but by the ideas it embodies. For those who handled it, examined it, and studied it, it is already legendary, a testament to how ingenuity, necessity, and human understanding of combat can converge in a single, powerful object. And as the engineers step outside, sunlight cutting through the ruins, they carry with them more than sketches and measurements. They carry understanding, inspiration, and the quiet knowledge that they have touched a pivotal moment in military history. The CG-44, steel, wood, and thought, has passed from the hands of one army to the minds of another. Its influence is just beginning. And perhaps that is the most extraordinary thing of all. Even as empires fall, even as wars end, ideas endure. As viewers, we can look back and reflect. Innovation is often born under pressure. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from an enemy's ingenuity. And sometimes the future of warfare, and the future of design itself, is revealed not in grand strategies, but in the cold steel of a single rifle, held in the hands of those who dared to understand it. So next time you see a modern assault rifle, pause. Think of the men in that dim German depot. The smell of oil and gunpowder, the flickering light, the curiosity, the awe. And remember that what seems ordinary today was revolutionary yesterday. And it all began with the StG 44. Perhaps now you understand this rifle was more than a weapon. It was a bridge between the brutal reality of World War II and the future of combat. And, for those who held it, who examined it, who dared to imagine what it could teach them, the StG 44 was nothing short of a revelation. And if you've ever wondered how one weapon could reshape the way armies fight, now you know.